Hey, everybody, it's Ann Emerson. Thanks for joining me. I'm looking forward to being able to be part of this chat today as we're sort of waiting for this press conference to begin. I'm seeing everybody starting to pop on, and I just want to kind of get to some of your messages, what you're thinking about today. And I'm going to turn that part off so you can't hear me talking to myself. But so this is an opportunity for us to come together in the chat section. I'm going to be answering things, talking about what's going on as we wait for sort of what we call like the shot to show us that the press conference is going to be beginning shortly. We expect it to begin at 1 o'clock, and we don't know exactly what we're going to hear in this yet, but we do know that they're bringing people in from all over from the FBI to be working on this case. And I just think that at this point, we need to be paying attention to what the messages are, because anybody and everybody that heard that plea from Savannah Guthrie last night and her brother and sister to bring Nancy Guthrie home, it really, really came home to me, and I think it came home to everybody, that this is a dire situation that needs to be figured out. When that message came on, I'll tell you, we've been working on this all week, and I had literally some of the experts and the investigators that we had been talking to were coming through to talk to me about it, and it was literally unbelievable how concerned everybody was as we were going through it. So I'm just so glad that you could join us today and help us go through all of this to understand it. And I'm seeing in the comments, everything that I see from you guys from the chat, and we have two of our producers in there as well. Criminally Obsessed Kathy's joining us. Criminally Obsessed. And there's Dr. Laura Pittler as well. Thank you very much, Laura, for joining us in the chats today. We also have Erica Glass, a producer, with us as well, Criminally Obsessed Erica. So they'll be answering in your chat as well about what's going on. I just want you to know that I think that there is so much goodwill out there from you guys and from everyone to really come together and try and figure out how we can be more supportive, how we can get the word out. And that's something that we do in the media. And we want to be helpful right now, right? And what I've heard from Dr. Laura, who's on right now, keeping an eye on the comments as well to see if she can bring any insight to things, that the investigation right now, there's so much that we want to know. And I'm sure the reporters that are going to be in the room today in the press conference are going to be really trying to ask all of the right questions. But there's so much, and we know this from years of doing this, but also just from years of watching press conferences, that there's so much that they can't tell us too. So that's going to be the balance, I think, today, to see how they handle this. And I think it's important, from media perspective, I believe that it's really important to push and ask for every single thing you possibly can, but also to understand when you have to sit back. There's a thing that I've got on the back of my shelf here that I think about quite a bit. It was actually during COVID times, kind of during the pandemic. I went to the FBI Citizens Academy. To kind of learn. They invite like a member of the media from your region to go and sit in the Citizens Academy and learn a little bit about how things work behind the scenes with the FBI. And when situations like this happen, I can't tell you how valuable it is to me to be able to do that. So let's get into the questions a little bit. I want to see if people have questions for me right now. I think here's one from at Jude G6J. Thank you for joining us. Where is the brother-in-law, and why haven't the networks picked up on this? Well, I mean, I think that we did. I've seen pictures of the brother-in-law, but more importantly, I saw who would be his partner, right, up there with Savannah Guthrie during this heartfelt, heartbreaking video that was released trying to speak to whomever they think may have been involved in a possible abduction. So I saw that face, and sort of that's what I'm focusing on right now. We were told it was pretty straightforward. It was put out on Facebook. It was put out on social media by the Pima County Sheriff's Office that they do not believe that they have a suspect in their sights right now. So that's something that I think we should all keep up to right now. I think that, and that's what I'm seeing in the comments as well, is that I think that we are really trying to figure out how we can help further the investigation. I think the best way we can do that is to spread awareness as much as we can, and to get the tip line up. I was actually going to ask, we've got our producers watching this right now, and I was going to say something that would be really good. I'm going to make a note about it right now. We need to have that tip line up today as well. I'm just going to ask them if we can build out, make sure we've got the tip line up for you guys, because it's going to be important if anybody just kind of pops on, right, and starts watching this and remembers something, and they might happen to live in the Tucson area and they went to a 7-Eleven on Sunday morning or something and saw something. That's what I always think about. It's like, we're all so caught up in our own lives, but you could easily be going around the corner and see something that you didn't think anything of until you start watching all this and you figure out that it actually meant something. So we've got quite a few people coming in to watch, which is great. We've only been streaming for like 7 minutes. I promise it won't be me the whole time. We're going to put up the press conference as soon as we get word that the press conference is starting. But we wanted a chance to kind of, before we had to just really sit down and listen. And thank you so much. I just saw they put up the tip line, 1-800-CALL-FBI. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So that's an opportunity. It's in the chat right there for you guys to take a look at that and make sure that, if anybody has any kind of ideas, that tip line's right there. So we'll hopefully keep it up, for you guys, and put it up every once in a while so you can see what's going on. Now let's look at some more of the comments. Pamela Marie, I noticed too, Savannah sat forward. Okay, so we're talking about that video that was released last night, and I'm sure most of the people out here have watched it. But one of the things that I saw was that Savannah was, and that was a really good point. And actually, Dr. Laura and I were talking about it earlier, just texting amongst ourselves, talking about it. But that Dr. Laura noticed too that Savannah was sitting up, like, kind of in front while she was talking with the paper. It looks like some of you noticed it as well. What do you think that means? Maybe that's what I want to know, is what do you think that means? To me, my first response to that is that they needed her in front reading that statement for the most part. So we're going to have to just see how this rolls out, right? It's an unprecedented situation in some ways, don't you feel? I feel like this is one of the most unusual kind of occurrences like this that I've seen. Maybe it's happened. Maybe it hasn't happened in my generation even like this. Maybe this has happened in previous generations. So maybe you're a little older than me, and saw something from, decades ago. I've been doing this for about 30 years as an investigative reporter. And honestly, this is, for me, a first. It really is. And my heart goes out because, being in the media, I think that you think that you have like these natural sort of barriers in some way, or that journalistic line that everybody sort of understands that you're just reporting. But at the same time, I think in the media, we just naturally are people, especially somebody as amazing as Savannah Guthrie, who is sort of America's sweetheart in a lot of ways, right? I mean, we wake up in the morning, we turn on the TV, she's there, she's making coffee, or we're making coffee, and she's talking about whatever's going on for the day, and she just walks right into our living room. And so I think that, that's one thing, is that a lot of people just feel like they know Savannah. And that happens sometimes, not just with celebrities, but like with people that are in the media, like journalists who work on these morning shows and that are kind of come into your life very intimately, through your television sets or through your phone now, or your computers. So it's an interesting situation for sure to be in. Now let's look and see what other comments we can kind of go into. And let's see. I want to just read a little bit. Bear with me. Thank you at Lori Winery 3210. Thank you for saying thank you for the coverage. You know what? We feel very dedicated to bringing you the latest at Criminally Obsessed. This is our true crime digital platform for for almost like 180 stations, y'all, across the country. These are stations. It's not just NBC, it's ABC, it's CBS, it's Fox. We have all of these stations that we're able to contribute to our coverage and to be part of our company. And Criminally Obsessed is sort of the true crime digital platform for this company. So we can really bring you information coming from the ground all over the country. So I hope that not only on this story, but on stories going forward, that you'll use us as a real resource for information that you need. I think that we will be able to bring a lot more coverage to you as well. Let's see. Yes. So I wanted to talk about this a little bit. In a situation like this, when they don't have it resolved or don't feel like it's getting resolved anytime particularly soon, but the interest is so high, you can imagine what it's like for a relatively medium size, I would say, sheriff's office. Tell me if I'm wrong. If anybody's in Pima County right now, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think of it as like a medium-sized sheriff's office, which isn't huge. You've got some resources, not a ton. And, I know I called the sheriff's office, as did my producers, as did probably every single media outlet in the country. You can imagine how overwhelming that is. So I think this is really smart for the sheriff to get on, as well as to be working with the resources and the reach of the FBI, but that he brings this to us every couple of days. So that's his goal, is what I heard, was that he really wanted to bring this briefing. And I don't think that this is like, I'm sure people are asking, like, is that like just publicity? Does the sheriff like to be on camera? Probably not. Probably would like to be doing his job. But what I'm thinking is that this is an easier way for him to get information out to us as we kind of go through. So yeah, so it says, not a huge sheriff's office. Thank you at Cynthia. I'm so bad at like this. Somebody tell me how I should say this, but like for your handles, but at Cynthia, thank you. Not a huge sheriff's office, and they don't often get cases like this. I don't think anybody gets cases like this often. I'll be honest with you. I think this is one for the books. And I just hope that everything that we do in our comments section, how we discuss it, how we bring on experts to talk about this, that we really, really bring good insight, and that we bring positive energy, and that we really come up with some ideas. So I would love to hear what y'all are thinking about for ideas as well. Like, what should they be looking at? What are they not looking at that you think that it should be looking at? Did Miss Guthrie have any pets? You know what? I've heard about a dog. Does anybody know for sure if she had a dog? I saw a picture of a dog. That to me, like, I would need some kind of corroboration besides just a picture of a dog. So I don't know the answer to that. FBI is assisting Pima County per Trump. Actually, per Trump orders is what it says. President Trump, absolutely. I did see that they really wanted to bring in a lot more people. And that was under him. Absolutely, I saw that. But I would say that, FBI, what's so fabulous about the FBI is that they do have resources everywhere. They do have that reach that we talk about. So they were there. I mean, Pima County, that's what's the way we set up our government, right? So Pima County's in charge until they're not in charge, until for whatever reason they need to hand it off to a federal agency. And those reasons are pretty specific. Like that doesn't just happen. The FBI comes in to assist, and as do other law enforcement agencies. And because everybody needs to be boots on the ground on a case like this. But we do look at cases. My FBI experts tell me that this is going to be like if it's crossing state lines, right? If it's crossing state lines, if they have evidence that there's a reason for a federal arm to be more front and center on this, but we haven't. As far as I know, we haven't been told that's going to happen yet. More FBI, yes. Samantha Guthrie's husband. Yeah, there were questions. Oh, well, we don't know. No one has mentioned anything about a motive behind this yet, and we're still learning exactly who or what would be behind this right now, of course. I think there's a lot of speculation. I think we should be careful with it, but I do think it's interesting that we look at all of the people and we hear about this from our experts again, and that's who I rely on. Is the people that we bring in, the Dr. Laura Petlers who are in here that you can ask a question to directly, the private investigators we talk to, the FBI, retired FBI agents like Steve Lazarus that we've been speaking with. When we talk to them, we do hear, of course, about how they run these investigations. And it's that, and we've heard it, many times, that they start in that small circle and they move their way out from Nancy Guthrie. Now, Laura will tell you that this is, we need to really look at the victimology here. So is that something that we can do? Nancy, we certainly know about her persona just because she's Savannah's mom. We've heard about her going to church. We've heard about her living in Tucson, and what her house looks like because we've seen it, and we've heard about what the situation was with the house as well. So all of those things are contributing to the victimology. And Laura, if I'm missing anything, feel free to pop in because I know that you should be able to hear this as well as far as what's going on. Let's see. Okay, so this is interesting. Okay, so Nicholas Ledoux Hollingsworth. Hi, Tucson resident here. I work in the area quite often, which is a great area of Tucson. He's talking about, I think, where Nancy lives, which is the Catalina foothills area. It's right outside of Tucson. I looked at a map. It looks like it's like 14 minutes outside the center of Tucson. This is what we would consider an upper class neighborhood. Most of the homes, about half of the homes, that is what, and I think that's something that we all talked about as well, about how these areas, these lots are, and we've heard about this too, sort of an acre to 3 acres. That's how big these houses sit on. That's huge for a lot of people living on the East Coast, right? Like that's a lot of land. But I think when you're living out, maybe out the outskirts and it's not rural. It's just, obviously it's suburban area of Tucson, but that's a big piece of land. And when I was looking at the land around her house, what really struck me was that there was a lot of scrub brush. There was a lot of cacti. It wasn't friendly walking around land. It wasn't like a yard that you would be particularly wanting to walk around. So that was something that I noticed as well. I was on the Murdoch commentary, and that's how Pamela Marie found me. Pamela Marie, 1974. Thank you for joining us. And Drew, yes, he was part of. It was Drew and me and our legal analyst Charlie Condon. Speaking of which, while we're waiting, we do have, I don't know if Pamela Marie, you're following and other people are following, but next week we have the Murdoch appeal. I was just working on a story about that. So we are going to be covering that live as well. The Murdoch appeal, Alec Murdoch is trying to get his double murder conviction overturned. And that's here in South Carolina, where I'm based. So we're going to be covering that next week, February 11th, just to kind of put that on your calendar as far as different stories that you may be interested in. Okay, yeah. Oh, thank you for bringing this up. And I've been talking about this a little bit as well, but I appreciate this at Cynthia. I should put my glasses on, y'all. Cynthia Renzolin, 5175. Also, Tucson has a low light ordinance for local astronomy labs, so there are little to no streetlights. It is really very dark here at night. I've been reading about that, about how the observatories in your area in Tucson. And to me, that's really important. That means that whatever was going on the night that Nancy was abducted, from what the sheriffs told us, it was very dark outside, which makes you wonder how good surveillance is going to be, how hard it is to see things. A lot harder than it would be in a area like where I live, where there's street lights all over the place. And we actually have floodlights up too. I have floodlights on my house. I have sensor floodlights on my house. So I can see how that would be difficult. I don't know if she had, I guess that's one of the things that you're talking about, Cynthia, is that they don't like to have that because it disturbs that light pollution, as it were. That may get in the way of the work we're doing at the observatories. Yeah. Okay. So Tracy Pugh, this goes back to what was going on. Okay. So Tracy Pugh, just because you're not reading the same thing I'm reading right now. One of the Trace Pugh, 25, sorry. What I'm seeing is a lot of people asking about the timeline, like what was going on before Nancy disappeared. And I'd love it if you guys piped in and talked to me about what you're learning about that as well. If there's anything else out there, what I know is basically what the sheriff has been able to talk about, right? The sheriff has basically told us that they know when she got dropped off. The reports I've read are that she did get dropped off by the brother-in-law and the sister of Savannah Guthrie. And when they dropped her off, it was sometime around 9:45. I was also told that, they made sure she got in safely because we know that Nancy's got mobility issues and she can't walk far. And it's only, probably, I think we've been told she can walk about 50 yards. So if that's the case, they helped her get inside. But then there's this huge gap in the timeline, and that's what we're trying to figure out. And I'm hoping that today, that's one of the questions that I'm really hoping today that we're going to hear more about that timeline, that they're narrowing it down. Think about all the things we've learned about Nancy, the heart conditions, we have a 911 call that talks about that, the pacemaker, the last time that pacemaker was synced up with her device, with her phone. We were looking at that at 2 a.m. from what I understand. So a 2 a.m., that's a long time in between. I saw a cardiologist talking about this last night because I'm like you. I'm watching and listening to everything that I can to try and understand and trying to listen to people who appear to know what they're talking about. So I was happy to see a well-known cardiologist on talking about it. And he said that does not necessarily, at that 2 a.m. pacemaker, the last time it synced, one of the things he talked about was that it could have also been, because she had a pacemaker, it could have been like an arrhythmia to the heart, or it could have been something that had gotten her heart excited at that moment. So I think that's a really important piece of the puzzle as far as putting this timeline together. I keep on thinking about that, at least, is how does this pacemaker help us? And really, when does her pacemaker stop helping us? And then when do we lose track of where she goes? So to me, that 2 a.m. part of the timeline is very important. And then you know that the sweet ladies, oh, here we go. So it looks like they're just now starting to set up. I just looked at my screen. That 11 a.m., just to finish my thought, 11 a.m. is when we're sort of um, hearing that that's when they realized that she was missing, that they needed to find her because she didn't show up for church that morning. She was a churchgoer. She always went. And that's when we realized that we have a problem. Unfortunately, for missing people, it's so concerning to have that much time in between. I'm getting a couple of messages from different people, and I want to see what this is all about. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Sorry. I'm just still looking at my messages. I want to make sure that I'm getting the latest information for you guys as we're going through. Oh, yeah, it's starting soon, Joyce Grossman. That's what I'm saying too. What time are we at? 1:00. Okay, so 1:01. I just want to let you know that when we go up, I'm going to keep in the comments, but I'm going to be quiet, right? And I'm going to disappear. I want y'all to have full screen of what's going on, and we can keep on talking in the comments. But I want to make sure that we're watching and listening to this together. It says the police said she drives well, but she just can't walk far, so she would have driven to church. That's right, but they said that her car was there, right? So Teresa, yeah, I think I see what you're saying. I don't know who was supposed to pick her up, Columbia Rose. I was wondering that too. Her question was, who was supposed to pick her up for church and why didn't they show up to pick her up is also a question. I think it's a great question. I'm wondering if that's when that welfare call went in, right? Did they really drop her off? I don't know. The other thing I want to know, are you guys paying attention to, we had, Dr. Laura and I had a really great conversation, or she gave me great information about blood analysis at the scene, really taking a look at that blood that they found on the front porch. There's so many things that are bothering me about that. And I don't know how you feel about it. One of the things that I keep on thinking about is that there were no tracks through the blood. Somebody made that point in our comments after our show last night, that if somebody had been hurt or carried or, like this, like carrying somebody, why weren't they making footprints in that blood? That really bothered me. How much blood was in the house and at the door? We don't know on the inside. See, that's one of those things that it's gonna be a lot for us to have to wait and see sort of what they tell us, right? That's inside the crime scene. And, one thing that I've heard over and over again is these cases can be made or they can fall apart in the first 24 hours of an investigation. And when I say that, I mean, not necessarily that we don't find Nancy Guthrie or that we don't get to a prosecution of whoever would be involved in something this heinous, but that if the investigation is somehow or the evidence is destroyed or there are issues with the way it's handled and that chain of custody of certain things, then that can get very, very bad, right? That's when you can start losing you can already be losing your case against whoever you want to prosecute for this. So that is why I have huge respect for the law enforcement to try and keep it under wraps to some degree. So we'll see how cagey they are today, to be honest. Yeah. There has been a lot of criticism about, the ransom note and how it was released out into the media. But I think that I thought that the local stations, from what I've seen, have done a really good job in the Tucson area. I mean, they had these ransom notes, and they kept their mouth shut as far as some of the details, and I think that is going to help us. We have not heard 100% um, how they're handling this ransom note, and I didn't feel like that ransom note, for what it was addressed exactly by Savannah and her siblings in that plea that she made, that amazing video that she released on socials last night. I didn't feel like that. What do you think? Like, I felt like it kind of you could put two and two together with that, but at the same time, you didn't know if there was other stuff coming in. And one thing that me and my producers talk about on the show all the time is that as much as you think you know what's going on behind the scenes, you don't know anything. I don't know anything. You know, it's like it will take a right turn all of a sudden, and you look at it and you're like, never saw that coming that way. So I try and keep a very open mind, as do everybody on our team here at Criminally Obsessed, because I think that that's so important as we're going through. Just never know. Is Patel going to talk now? The FBI director, Patel. I fully expect him to, don't you? I would be shocked if he's going to fly all the way to Tucson and hang out in the back. I think we're going to have Patel front and center pretty soon after. I mean, I would totally expect him to, especially after the announcement was made that the FBI director was being sent to Tucson to work with his agents. I think that's a really good point. So that's one of the things we're expecting here. And how is the FBI going to be involved now? Is this, like we talked about, is this their, are they continuing to assist, or when the FBI director comes in, does that balance of power shift in some way? I know everybody wants to know about the dog. They took her dog. She had a dog. We don't know. And that was frustrating to me last time, being several thousand miles away from Tucson and working from here and not being at that press conference. I was really hoping, I feel like I need to like text one of the reporters and say, please ask about the dog, because everybody wants to know. And look, I mean, it's a perfectly reasonable thing to want to know, because we've seen dogs play an integral role in solving crimes before, or solving crimes being a huge part of how we figured the crimes out. We humans figure it out. And I'm thinking about one dog in particular, Bubba, because he got in the way, because he grabbed a guinea hen. In another case, Bubba was Alec Murdaugh's dog, or his wife's dog. And that ended up being the clincher, that and some videos taking of dogs in that area. So you never know. And that's what I mean. Like, we didn't know until we were halfway through that trial that we were about to see Alec Murdaugh get busted for the murders of his wife, Maggie, and son, Paul, because of a dog. So I'm right there with you. I think the dog, you just never know how that might play a role. So a couple of things about what we heard from Savannah last night that I wanted to talk about was that she really said she was ready to talk to whoever was, she wanted to hear from them. She was ready to talk, right? Why would someone request digital currency instead of cash? Isn't that way more likely to be traced? I'm clueless on Bitcoin crypto. This is Sony Oregano. Great question. I think that from what I've seen, Bitcoin is, because it is digital, that it could be an easier way to transfer funds for these sort of reasons. So I'm pretty sure that's why they picked Bitcoin, but it's also an international currency. So that might also make it less traceable. And tell me if I'm wrong, because you're right. I'm not a Bitcoin expert either. Yeah, Bitcoin. Okay, look at that. I was right. Bitcoin or crypto is not traceable, according to, and I am not even going to, is one of our viewers right now. Leave it. What is it? Love it or leave it. There it is. Um, so yes, that's what I've been hearing too. I think it's incredibly hard to trace Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Yeah, it's really hard to be patient. I'm seeing a lot of like frustration as well from comments as we're waiting for this. Just people saying, it's really frustrating not to know what's going on behind the investigation. It is. But everybody needs to remember we're 5 days in. And even though we've been told that there was a 24-hour window for her medications, we were told that Nancy Guthrie needed her medications within 24 hours. We don't know. We don't know the situation with that medication, do we? We don't know if some medication was given to her or that the people who we assume have abducted her for whatever reason, whether or not they or he or she knew about medication needs for her. It seems quite silly to me that they wouldn't have some kind of medication for her if she needs it. I mean, that to me raises a lot of concerns about who would be the abductors in this if they didn't know that. Knowing all these other things about when, how, what they're doing, who they're doing it to, and then to miss an incredibly important step with a woman who's 84 years old. I'll be honest, like I don't know a whole lot of 84-year-olds that don't take some medication for the most part. So that is something. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunity here for this case to be solved with the kind of surveillance, digital, cell phone, license plate readers. And I'm saying this because I'm looking at some of the comments about how is this going to get solved. And I think, I think that is where law enforcement shines with its federal partners. I've seen it before with license plate readers in some of these cases. And y'all, I do think that is going to play an integral role. And I'm hoping that that's where they're making progress. Because if you think about it, as soon as a car drives away with somebody in it, hopefully it is going literally, those license plate readers and everything are getting picked up all over wherever they can. We also have heard a lot about the different law enforcement agencies that are contributing to this search. I mean, we know that Tucson is not that far away from the border, and we've heard that Border Patrol have also been on the lookout for any kind of suspicious activity, anything that could lead us to Nancy. We know that the feds are involved. I'm hoping that we're going to get more information about the other law enforcement agencies involved. It must be overwhelming for Pima County Sheriff's Office right now to have the limelight on it. Another thing I wanted to ask about too is, Savannah Guthrie was supposed to be headed to the Olympics probably 2 days ago. And of course, she pulled out of the Olympics. And I know that our hearts, as journalists, we're all standing with them over at NBC. And because it must be very scary days right now, as far as not knowing who this abductor is and whether or not it puts anybody else at risk in the media community. It's just beyond belief. Interesting. A couple of notes that are coming in right now too about Nancy Guthrie being 84 years old and living on her own. I'd be interested to see how people feel about that. Again, to go back to my conversation with Dr. Laura yesterday, that's just below here on the episodes if you want to learn more about victimology, how Laura's looking at this case, what we know, is that I'm from the sandwich generation. That's what I call it. Having small kids or medium kids or older kids, and then having those parents that are in their 70s, 80s. I'm right there with Savannah with those age group. Now, my parents have passed away, but I have so many friends who are living this way with their elderly parents or elderly people that they're watching, loved ones, members of the family, uncles, aunts, that might not live where you live, and you don't necessarily want to uproot your family to move to where your elderly parents living. So it's an impossible situation to be in. And I do feel like it's something that I hear about more and more. I mean, I'm the youngest of 4 kids, and two of mine are two of my siblings are getting to the retiring age, and I'm going to worry about them if they're listening right now. I'm going to worry about them. And I think this is part of it, is like, you want to be in control of their lives, but I find that elderly parents really want to be independent as long as they possibly can. It's kind of like that thing. You think I still think of myself, everybody's got an age of how old they think of themselves. And I think of myself as probably 20 years younger than I am. And I have a feeling that's the same way Nancy was too, right? She wants to live on her own. She has a beautiful, beautiful home in Tucson, a beautiful life with people that love her and, want to be with her and take her out to dinner and drop her off at home. And she has people that are coming into the house to help her. It sounds like a beautiful life until something like this happens. And it's just it's the worst case scenario. It's the biggest nightmare for everybody in America who's living like this right now, with parents on either side of them. Yeah. So Robin Pruitt says, it's more concerning to me now if her meds are still there, if someone kidnapped her and wanted ransom. Yeah, I know. I agree. I hate that so much. Your comment just went, yeah. You think that the person, whoever took them, would want to make sure she stays healthy to get the money. I agree. I mean, that to me is like, talk about where the planning and execution of something like this falls apart. And I'm just hoping, as we bring her home, which I truly believe that we will, and I have full hope and faith in the system that we are going to get justice, and we're going to see Nancy Guthrie smiling, and we're going to get to the bottom of this. I really, really want to be there with Savannah and her siblings as we go through this. And the power of positivity cannot be lost on something like this. But yeah, I'm hoping that they did know about the meds, and I hope that they did give it to her. Yeah, she probably wanted to be in her own house.
Trying not to cover any of these microphones up. Good morning. I hope you've been kind of informed of the rules. I'm going to try to get as many, if not all of you, an opportunity to ask a question. But last time we tried this, it was just kind of chaotic, people yelling. So I'd ask that you just kind of be patient with me, pay attention to the questions asked, because sometimes you guys want to ask the same question twice, and you're going to get the same answer. So help yourself get what you can out of this. I'm going to give you one question and a follow-up, okay? But before we get there, I do have some comments. First of all, I want to begin by offering our condolences to our partners at the state. Department of Public Safety's tragically lost 2 members last night in a helicopter crash up in northern Arizona. So if you would keep them in your prayers, Colonel Glover and his team, I'm sure, would greatly appreciate it. Along the same lines, I think you all saw last night, I'm trying to speak up, not yell. Apparently I talk soft. We saw last night the family, they just hurt. understandably so. And so I really want you to know this entire team here, those behind me, and our community are hurting with you. We really just want Mom back, okay? Right now, we believe Nancy is still out there. We want her home. Our department, the Sheriff's Department, along with all of our partners at the FBI, have been working around the clock. And we just want her home and find a way to get to the bottom of all of this, just as you do. But I have other partners out there who have stepped up, and you've probably noticed them in the last few days, if not the last few hours, and you're going to see more of that. Well, I made a decision to contact our PCRIT team, and those of you not local, that's our Pima Regional Critical Incident Team. It's made up of law enforcement officers from this entire valley. Pasquayaki Police Department, Tucson Police Department, Marana Police Department, Oro Valley Police Department, Pima College Police Department, this is Tucson International Police Department, Sarita Police Department. There's so many of them, and they are going to help us tremendously. And that's really done because we have so much in front of us still, and we're hoping that, you know, I know the FBI has committed a very large number of men and women to partner with us, work side by side with us. We go do an interview, they're going to be there with us. We're going to go look at some evidence or process evidence, they're going to be right there with us. We're sharing every piece of information, all the data we can to get this thing solved. And it's important that my partners in law enforcement know and understand their roles, because it is very large, complex investigation with a lot of moving parts. And we're at that phase now where sometimes we're waiting, right? We're waiting for analysis, we're waiting for lab reports. But even then, when they come back quickly, for example, some DNA, we rushed what we thought was the best target for DNA. We did a rush through and got some of that back. The results were minimal. I think you all know the blood on the porch. That was one we did. It came back to Nancy. That's what we know. But there's still more items that have been submitted. We just haven't got them back yet. But in the meantime, we're not just sitting on our haunches waiting. We do have a number of leads coming in, and that's why we brought in the FBI for one, but PCRIT as well, to be able to get out there and handle these leads as they come in as quickly and as expeditiously as we can. And every single lead is looked at, every one of them. And so we're gearing up. You probably have some questions about what you've seen in the last couple of days. I'll gladly answer those at that time. But it really is about getting our partners out there. To be fair, when we went to that scene the first night, Saturday night, it was just us. Since then, the FBI and others have asked, can we go and see it as well? And that's what you've been seeing. But it is a very important case to not just me and my team, but this entire community, all of our law enforcement partners. Suspects. I know there's been a lot out there about suspects, and I want to be very clear. At this time, we have not identified a suspect or a person of interest in this case. We are working our best to do that. But to be clear, we have nobody of interest or any suspects that you would consider a prime suspect. We're just not there. We're not there yet. The timeline, I think we've got it on the board, do we not? This is a timeline that we have been able to develop with some of the things that we've had processed. Various pieces of electronics that we've gathered. And you look at some of this, and I know you're going to say, well, why did it take you so long to get this to us, Sheriff? Well, because one thing, it's got to go out and be processed at different lab sites, and sometimes that stuff comes back to us, and like you, we have questions. And we say, wait a minute, what is this about? What about this? Could it be that? And so it's sent back, or it's sent somewhere else. So, and that's happening with all of the things we see. that process, that review, and that questioning of, all right, what is it we're looking at? So I'll go over it with you. You can see it on the board there, but at about 5:32 p.m., these are approximate times. 5:32 p.m., Nancy travels to her local family's home for dinner and playing games with the family, just visiting. At 9:48 p.m., which is very consistent to what we were told by the family, that Nancy was dropped off at home, and we know that because we have a garage door open at approximately, I can't stress that enough, at approximately 9:48 p.m. At 9:50 p.m., that garage door closes, which is that time we assume that Nancy's home and probably going to bed. Sunday morning, early morning at 1:47 a.m., doorbell camera disconnects. At 2:12 a.m., software detects a person on a camera, but there's no video available. They had no subscription, and therefore it would rewrite itself. It just kind of loops, right, and covers up. That's what our analysis teams have told us. We're not done with that. We'll do all we can, but that's what it says. So it detects a person on camera. Could that be an animal? I imagine that's possible. We don't know that. We just have no video. But we're not giving up on that. 2:28. Nancy's pacemaker app shows that it was a disconnect from the phone. And at 11:56 a.m., the family checks on Nancy, discovers her missing, and at 12:03 p.m., 911 is called in to the Pima County Sheriff's Department. I believe it's about approximately 10 minutes later, 12 minutes later, our patrol teams arrive. They see the scene, and we start our response with our search and rescue teams and our detectives from homicide and various units. In fact, every unit here, I think somebody questioned, how come there's an ICAC member out here, or this member? Everybody in our criminal investigations team is a part of this team and part of this investigative effort. I think with that, let me make sure. I want to clarify some things that I may have already done, but yeah, I've gone over with the blood at the front door, the doorbell camera. It was removed, we know that, but we're not confirming that any cameras were smashed or destroyed around the house. I don't know where that came from, but that's something we're not confirming. The car, the car that was at the home, it's just standard investigative practices. It's part of the search warrant scene, court orders. We pull it out of there and do our scene processing with the vehicle. Uber, we did speak to a driver because Nancy, we learned, had been taken the Uber to the family residence, the daughter, for dinner. And we located that driver and spoke with them and got that information. You guys got this, I think, conducting follow-up. I think you said somebody had mentioned that they saw a team out there again last night or yesterday, and that's just, again, what I was talking about before. Our partners wanted a chance to see it and examine things themselves, and more importantly, it's just we're constantly following up on things and go, hey, what about this? So we want to go back and check on some things. Oh, here's the other thing. Someone had mentioned there was forced entry. I have no clue where that comes from. We have been very consistent. We are not discussing that at all, whether it's forced entry or not forced entry. That is something we're just not discussing. So I don't know where anybody got that information. I think I am about done with my piece of this. I'm going to bring up here Heath Yankee, and you know, John Edwards is the assistant agent in charge with the FBI here at the Tucson office. Heath Yankee is the special agent in charge for the state of Arizona out of Phoenix, and he will come up and speak.
Thank you, Sheriff. Hello, I'm Heath Yankee, the Special Agent in charge of the FBI's Phoenix Division. First, I want to let the Guthrie family know that our hearts are heavy for them. After seeing your message last night, it is clear that you and your family are in pain. Please know that we are doing everything to bring your mother home. The FBI is now working this case jointly with the Pima County Sheriff's Department, and we're going to start today by announcing a $50,000 reward for information leading to the recovery of Nancy Guthrie and or the arrest and conviction of anyone involved in her disappearance, and this will be the missing persons with the reward that will be going out. The FBI has agents, analysts, and professional staff employees working day and night with our partners at the Sheriff's Department. We have deployed additional intelligence and agents from our Phoenix office. We have brought in our Critical Incident Response Group from Quantico, Virginia. Members from our Cellular Analysis Survey team are here, and they continue to collect and process digital information. We are actively reviewing and analyzing information from all digital sources, which includes banks, social media companies, phone companies, and any other organizations where a digital footprint could have been captured. All this information provides data points and helps put the picture together. And we will be in the community continuing to conduct a thorough investigation with our partners. You heard about us out there last night. We will be back out there today. I would ask the media, give our investigators the space to do their jobs while they're out there. Next, regarding the ransom letter. We are aware of a ransom letter that was sent to the local media and then to national outlets. As with every lead, we are taking it seriously. We are in communication with the family, and while we advise and recommend from a law enforcement perspective, any action taken on any ransom is ultimately decided by the family. Thank you to those in the community that have called in tips. For anyone out there that may have information, no matter how small you think it may be, please report it. You can do so by calling 1-800-CALL-FBI or online at tips.fbi.gov. My next message is to those imposters who are trying to take advantage and profit from this situation. We will investigate and ensure you are held accountable for your actions. We have made one arrest related to an imposter ransom demand, and a complaint will be presented to a magistrate judge later today. You will get more on that from the FBI and our U.S. Attorney's Office here in Arizona when it becomes available. To anyone that may be involved, do the right thing. This is an 84-year-old grandma. This is an 84-year-old grandma that needs vital medication for her well-being. You still have the time to do the right thing before this becomes a worse, much worse scenario for you. Please return Nancy home. Thank you.
You can call them up.
Okay, so the first person we're going to start with the list is going to be NBC National, Liz Price. Right here.
Can you walk us through that timeline from when you believe, if you look at this here, from 147 to 228, what you think happened there, and what particular software would have detected somebody on camera?
Yeah, I don't. I know we know the software that was there, but I'm not. I'm sorry, I'm just not in the weeds. I know that. Think of your doorbell cameras. Somebody walks up. My wife's. If I walk up, she gets an alert, and it's usually something like that. A person's detected.
So to understand the involved, one, does that mean that it was about a 45-minute span that the suspect or suspects would have been on the property? And then also, does this essentially mean that you cooperated with the tech companies and you can officially say that no surveillance video is available from the home?
We know that the tech company that we sent that camera off to, yes, they've said they've run out of ways to recover any video.
Next person is going to be ABC News, Aaron Katersky.
Yeah. I'm sorry, was what 45 minutes?
Can we say it's about a 45-minute span that somebody would have been on the property then, from 147 to 228?
Yeah, I think those times speak for themselves, and it is about, like I say, those are approximates, so yes. I'm sorry, who was next, did you
Aaron
say?
Katursky, ABC News.
Hi, Sheriff. Thanks very much. Is there information that you are purposefully withholding because of the active investigation that might be leading you in a particular direction?
You know, this is no different than any criminal investigation that we conduct here. Law enforcement has conducted investigations since 1865 here in Pima County. We're always mindful of what it is that's in front of us and what we should release and can release. There's legal guidelines that guide us, but there's also strategy too. So, I'll leave that for you to determine.
Now that you are having such an injection of manpower from the Pima critical incident team and the FBI, would you slow to bring that in at the outset? Should all of these resources been brought to bear sooner?
I guess that, it's Monday morning quarterbacking. I do it all the time, so you have the opportunity to do it for me. I'll take that hit.
CBS News, Jonathan Migliotti.
Sheriff, over here, has there been any proof of life, and has there been any sign of life?
I'm going to, anything to deal with the ransom notes and that, I would defer to the FBI, but no, to my knowledge, we're still looking for Nancy.
And for my follow-up question, if I can speak with the special agent, what was it about this apparent ransom note that now 3 days on, you first haven't been able to validate, and second, it warranted informing the Guthries of its existence?
So the ransom note that was sent out there, obviously every lead in this case we are taking extremely serious.
But not
given,
everyone is presented to the family. Why this one?
Because this was the ransom that came in and it had facts associated with a deadline, with a monetary value they were asking for. So at that point...
What were some of those facts, if you can, because there's been a lot of speculation, as you know, if you could set the record straight.
Yeah, the ransom itself, one talked about an Apple Watch and one talked about a floodlight. We're not going to go into specifics. It's very important that we keep this investigation moving forward, and we don't want to put more facts out there that others then can use to try to profit from this.
Who else would know about
CNN
an
next,
Apple Watch?
Ed Lavandera.
Hey, Agent, I want to follow up with you real quick on that. There have been, as far as we know, I think 3 ransom notes so far, 1 arrest. Are they all different? Do you think there's different authors behind all of them, or?
So the one that went to the media is the one we are currently investigating and working on. The imposter that I talked about, where an arrest was made early this morning, that there will be more information. We believe there's no evidence to connect this to Nancy's case. It was someone that was trying to profit from it, a total imposter.
And Sheriff, you started off the press conference by saying you believe that Nancy is still out there. Do you have reason to believe that she's still out there alive, or are you fearful of the worst case scenario here, that she won't be found alive?
Well, I'm certainly fearful of that. I think we all are. But it is we operate from a position that until we know she's out there, she's alive, and we're going to continue thinking that way until we find her.
Fox Digital, Mike Reese.
Yeah, sir. Mike Rose from Fox Digital. Sheriff, you said you've identified no suspects. Have you ruled out anyone she was with on Saturday night?
You know, we've talked to so many. I'm sure that my investigators have feelings about this one's clear or this one isn't. But no, I wouldn't say anybody's ruled out yet, because what if I rule you out and then later I learn something else? No.
So my follow-up, you mentioned that you don't know where the recording of a forced entry came from. Do we know how whoever did this got into her house?
That I would not discuss with you anyway.
Fox News, Paul Morrow.
Question for Agent Edwards, if I may. Agent Edwards, will the Bureau be submitting the DNA for investigative genealogical investigation relative to maybe hitting a relative, somebody, if you will?
I would say the DNA aspect of this case is being handled by the Pima County Sheriff's Department right now. However, should we get to that point, yes, that would be an option for the FBI to assist.
And a quick follow-up, does the ransom note that you're working establish any communication protocols in it?
if someone has Nancy and is demanding the ransom, that there is communication with the family. We talked about has been no proof of life, and there was no other demands within that letter. So they're still waiting for communication.
ABC affiliate, Ashley Holden.
Right there, Ashley Holden. When you say the doorbell camera was disconnected, do you believe that that camera was taken?
We do not have it in our possession. We've not located it.
And then a follow-up. I know that we've been hearing a lot about ransom notes. We were also hearing in that video that was put out by the Guthrie siblings, and I don't know if this is a question for the FBI or yourself, but the challenges of seeing an image and knowing that it's real. Could one of you address that? Has the family received correspondence, any images, videos?
So we're not going to go into facts regarding this part of the investigation. I think part of that message was with AI these days, you can make videos that appear to be very real. So we can't just take a video and trust that that is a proof of life these days because of the advancements in AI and trying to actually get a proof of life that we can verify. But we're not going to go into anything the family may or may not have received.
KOLD, Catherine Patterson.
So in regards to a timeline on that ransom note, is that being an impact in your investigation? Are we nearing that timeline?
I'm sorry, one more time.
So in regards to the timeline in the ransom note, are we nearing that timeline? And is that playing a part in the investigation?
We're not going to go again into specifics of that part of the investigation with the ransom note other than what we've put out there. We've been transparent. We're talking about we are working that ransom demand, but we don't want to go anything further than that could impact any opportunities. So thank you.
Is there any additional physical evidence at the crime scene other than the technology that you guys are using for this timeline? Is there anything else that's helping you guys other than really the technology?
Well, I think I said on day one is that it's technology that's going to really help us solve this case. But no, I mean, you know, we did do a process of that scene for biological evidence, so we're still hopeful that maybe something will show up there as well.
Arizona Republic, Richard Rella.
Agent Yankee, we saw on the scene, I believe it was you, taking a tripod into the home of the sister. How involved was the FBI, if at all, in creating the video? Any advice to the family on what to say to the video?
I would say we use our expertise and provide consultation and advice anytime a family would ask for our advice in a kidnapping. It's ultimately the family's decision of what they put out and any messages they put out. But we were, obviously, you're all documenting every move we make. We were there last night in talking with the family. But every decision is theirs.
Right, that was a tripod and a ring light. And Sheriff Nanos, you said the blood was found on the porch and on the front stoop. Just wanted to verify that?
I say porch, front stoop. It's all in that same general area by the front door.
Front of the house.
Front door, yes.
What, given her medical condition and the fact that it was her blood, as you say, what would her medical condition do with her recovery if she indeed bled out or was bleeding when she left the house?
Well, again, I've got to be careful for HIPAA, but I would say this. We know she is in need of medication, daily medication. And we also know that this is day 4 or 5, and still we don't know that she's getting her medication. That could in itself prove fatal.
And for the
No, that'll be that question. For KGUN News, we have Craig Smith or
I'll get
Athena.
that for you. I'll get it.
Craig?
KGUN, Athena,
Oh,
Craig Black.
okay.
Have you been in communication with anyone who you believe could be the kidnapper?
You know, it goes back to what we talked about. Nobody's eliminated, but we just really don't have enough to say, this is our suspect, this is our guy, we know, or our gal. We just don't know that. And it's really kind of reckless to report that someone is a suspect when they could very well be a victim. It just, I bring to you, to the media, I plead with you to be careful of what it is we put out there, because we don't have anybody here listed as a suspect. And you could actually be doing some damage to the case, but you can do some damage to that individual too. Social media is kind of an ugly world sometimes.
And how far out have you expanded your search, you say?
You know, I would tell you this, look, nothing's off the table. If we get a lead that there's somebody, hey, you've got this over here or over here, we're going. And that will expand and expand and expand. I think the FBI, with their billboards, they're now planning to put those up at every state around here, at all of our neighboring states. So, we use you, the national media, the FBI with their national outreach, to affect that for us. But as far as the actual investigation, naturally the scene is the primary, and we just keep spreading it out as we get more and more leads.
Court TV, Cody Thomas.
Hi there, Sheriff. Actually, my question is for Agent Yonke. You know, we saw Savannah Guthrie and her sibling family put out that video last night on Instagram addressing, you know, the tragedy that this is, but also addressing the ransom letter saying they're ready to talk. My question is, did the FBI or any other agency help them craft that message to put out on social media?
Like I said to the previous question, we have an expertise when it comes to kidnappings, and when families want advice, consultation, expertise, we will provide that. But the ultimate decisions on what they say and how they put that out rests with the family itself.
And as far as suspects, I know we haven't identified one, but what type of suspect or suspects do we think we're dealing with here?
At this time, like the sheriff has said, there is no primary suspect identified, so it could run the gamut. So.
KPNX, Troy Hayden.
Are you actively investigating the son-in-law in this case? I know there were reports earlier this week, and you refuted that. You said you haven't eliminated everybody. Have you eliminated him or come close to it, or are you actively looking at him?
We're actively looking at everybody we come across in this case. Everybody. We would be irresponsible if we didn't talk to everybody. The Uber driver, the gardener, the pool person, whoever, everybody. It's so cliche, but everybody's still a suspect in our eyes. That's just how we look at things and think as cops. Does that mean we have a prime suspect? No, and the family's been very cooperative. They've done everything we've asked of them, and we want that relationship to continue. And sometimes people can be mean out there, and that can really harm us and harm our efforts.
Did you find blood anywhere else in the home besides the porch?
The only DNA evidence we've got back is on the porch. We prioritize things and we rush things, and those items we put out to a lab to rush it. And even then, it's 2 or 3, 4 days. The other items could take 10 days, 20 days, but we saw the importance of that blood. It came back to Nancy.
So it was only there, it wasn't anywhere else in the house?
I don't know that. We processed the house for biological evidence, and we've not gotten anything back.
Newsmax, Sarah Williamson.
Hi there. My question is just piggybacking off our colleagues here about how far this search has gone. When it comes to doorbell cameras, you say technology plays a critical role in this. Have you been actively going off in the neighbours and businesses and collecting those doorbell cameras? And is there anything that has come up there, and how far is that?
I can't tell you whether things have come up or not, but we have door-to-door. I think we're still doing door-to-door, not just in that neighborhood, but other neighborhoods. Just as leads come in and take us somewhere, we're going to do those things.
Okay, and just to follow up as well in regards to the video that was released by Nancy Guthrie's children last night, just to clarify, that was not coordinated with any law enforcement beforehand, and that you hadn't seen that video before it was released?
The FBI is handling all things with the ransom.
I think the answer was yes, we were there. The media was there. We can help coordinate, provide that consultation, but that is the family's decision of what they film and what they put out.
Fox 10, Justin.
Agent Yonke, this one's for you. Following up on that video that was released yesterday, it said, ultimately any further action is decided on by the family. Since then, have they expressed any more interest in more efforts to try and get in contact? Who is behind the ransom letter? And do you have a crisis or any sort of hostage negotiator with your team for that type of situation if it moves forward?
So the two parts of that question I think it's pretty clear. The family wants to be contacted. They know time is of the essence. And if those that may have Nancy are watching this, the family is ready to talk, get proof of life, because there has been no contact after that ransom note went to the media. For your second question, yes, we have crisis negotiators. That is part of our team here locally, along with the personnel we brought in from Quantico, and they will be part of it. But we're not going to go beyond that of any specifics.
Sheriff Nanos, taking down the crime scene perimeter after Monday's investigation and really opening access to that property to everyone else, was that something you would do differently looking back, knowing that federal authorities also conducted a search yesterday? Would you have kept that perimeter up, knowing that?
Monday morning quarterback, I probably would have, but I'll say this. We processed the scene. We got what we thought was complete. My team did that. I have to have all the faith and trust in their abilities and their skills, and I think they went through that pretty well. But because another agency now steps in and wants to assist, we're just like with you, we're an open book. Absolutely. How can we help? One of the things people don't see, I heard your question about, and we left and then others could walk up. When we process a scene and we're done, we return that scene to in this case, the homeowners, the family. And we don't just go march back in there. We call the family again and get permissions to go back to the home. So, yeah, there's, again, Monday morning quarterback, absolutely. I probably could have held off on that. We knew that the FBI, we've worked with them before in a lot of cases, and we felt like they could be of help in this with particularly the forensic analysis we use in a number of things. But at the start of this thing, we weren't sure what we had, and as the day progressed, we realized that there could be more to this, and we started in that. Remember, it was a search and rescue mission the first few hours, and we transitioned that over to a criminal investigation. With that, brought in our partners from the FBI and others.
Have you heard from President Trump on the resources?
I
was actually going to ask about that. We saw the message yesterday.
Are you next?
Claudia, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Following up on that, we saw the message from the president yesterday. Have you personally received any communication from him or
No, and I wouldn't expect that. He too is a busy man, right? And I would say this: we thank him for him opening up his entire law enforcement team was put out yesterday, and we know, I know my local reporters here know. We've always worked well with all of our partners in law enforcement. Maybe it's something unique to Southern Arizona and the rest of the country doesn't see that, but this isn't new for us. We've done this. Gabby Giffords, I headed up that investigation many years ago, and we worked side by side. Could not have got things done if we weren't with the FBI on that.
And just the other question, this being a border state, have you guys had any communication with Mexican authorities?
I have not. I work closely with the Mexican consulate, as other consulates, being the sheriff, but no, I've not heard from them.
Arizona, Univision, Madrid.
Hi, Sheriff. My question is, do you know, it's a two-part question, do you know what medication Nancy uses? And have you checked the local pharmacies and pharmacies around the state where they bought or say there's medication to keep her alive, to keep her healthy, while we still work with her?
So we do know what medications, and we have contacted pharmacies. Probably need to go back to just make sure that they didn't. Maybe we contacted them early on. I know that night, Saturday night, Sunday morning. I know we were doing all the hospital checks, and that check was continuous every hour, going back out. And physically in person, deputies were going to each local area hospital and asking them to check their logs.
My second question here is, I know you're looking for her in Pima County. Are you looking for her across the state now? And if so, if there's a particular area that you're focusing on right now?
Well, we're looking for her everywhere, right? The FBI just made an arrest on a tip that we got that we thought there could be something here. There's it's statewide. The billboards are going to be out there across the country. We take the leads from everywhere, and where those leads take us, we'll get there.
MS Now, Alex Talbot.
Agent Yankee, do you have any reason to believe that Nancy Guthrie may be being held outside of the country? Is that something that you ruled out at this point?
We don't have any of that information. We haven't ruled anything out. Like the sheriff said, we will follow the facts wherever they take us, whether it is outside of the state of Arizona or over the border. We will follow the facts and go there, but we have no indication anything over the Mexican border.
And you mentioned on the ransom note there were details about the Apple Watch and the floodlight.
Yep.
The ransom notes that were sent out to TMZ, KGUN, and KOLD, are they all the same ransom note? Do they contain the same details in each of those individual ransom notes?
The ones that I am tracking and aware of were the same that went to TMZ also.
News Nation, Brian Enton.
Agent Yankee, sorry.
Yes.
When did the first ransom note arrive? And the reason I ask is because the Apple Watch has been in the news and on social media, and you could see floodlights on video. So was it before those things were out in the world?
I don't have the specific time frame as I sit here today of what time it came in, but that you are right. Anyone could see a floodlight hanging down, could have seen some of those things. The watch has been talked about, so that timing is tricky, but that's why we're taking it serious no matter what and following the leads on that. But I don't have the time frame that the first note came in as I sit here today. Thank you.
And my follow-up is for the sheriff. In the house, were there any signs that someone tried to clean up or maybe destroy evidence?
I can't talk about the crime scene, so I'll give you another shot, another question.
My other question is, I heard the agent say that it was a joint investigation now. At the other press conference, the FBI said they were assisting. Is it joint now? I mean, are both agencies in charge now?
Look, there's no ego here. We in this part of the country, we'll take anybody's help. It's not about who's in charge. From day one, when we contacted the FBI, they were that gracious to say, whatever you need. And so that's really it. And they're great partners, just as my other local law enforcement brethren. I didn't even have to ask. That's what's really amazing. I haven't had to call anybody. They've called me. Sheriff, what do you need?
Arizona's family, Brianna Whitney.
Sheriff, I know you had the crime scene process. You said you went back out there. Your partners wanted to see it. But you guys were actively taking out evidence yesterday. Was there something you missed the first time, or did you get a new piece of information that led you to believe you needed to go back out and take more than you had that first day?
You know, I know that we get information that will come, and this is just any crime scene that we're looking at. We may go out to a crime scene and think we've got it all, go analyze the evidence, and something comes back and says, hey, did you check this? We're not going to just say, oops, and not go. Absolutely. In this instance, it really was the FBI just wanted to go, hey, can we take a look at it?
Are you worried about that being contaminated at all because there was people in that?
You know, I'll let the courts worry about that. We will certainly be open to the courts of anything that's been removed from that house, and we follow the rules of laws. We get court orders and go back and reapply for another warrant if need be. All of those things we're very careful of.
Arizona Public Media, Lynn Boyd.
Ellen Boyd over here. In that news release yesterday, there was a report of a trespasser. Has the Guthrie family dealt with any incidents, threats, whether it's trespassing, social media threats, anything of that?
I am not aware of any of that. I know that we, as with any case, again, we would look at all of the background of calls to those families or their residents and see if there's anything there, or even in that neighborhood. Those things have been looked at. I don't know of anything that was reported in even the last 30 days or 60 days. Nobody's come to me and said, hey, next door you had a burglary.
Follow-up for the neighborhood where Nancy's home is. Can you give any more details on that trespassing incident?
I don't have them.
Telemundo, Jesus Gonzalez.
It's for the API.
I just have a question. Can we confirm if the FBI director is coming for investigation?
Yes, Director Patel is being briefed several times a day on this investigation back in D.C. He does have a trip scheduled to Tucson that was pre-scheduled before this, but he is receiving consistent and constant updates from our team here.
He's coming today?
He is not coming today.
And before you go to the next one, you may have had a follow-up question, but I think I overstepped you. So if you wanted to ask, I'll give you that opportunity.
Thank you, I really appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. Absolutely.
Thank you. At what point do you deem the ransom note not credible if there is no communication that follows up since you received it? Like, what's that timeline where you say, no proof of life, there's no more, this isn't credible?
I think we start to look at what the deadlines were in the note. First, I think, was 5 o'clock today, and then it had a second deadline after that. So we are continuing. In a normal kidnapping case, there would be contact by now trying to discuss that. But those are the time frames we are looking at as we move forward.
Are you able to say that second deadline that was given?
I don't have that with me right now. So.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Sure. Entertainment Tonight, Denny Directo.
Yes, my question actually is for Agent Yonke. There was a report that said the ransom came from an email that the FBI was actually looking into that IP address. Any updates on that?
Nothing that I can release. Thank you.
And then also, there's also conflicting reports about who was the last person to actually see Nancy and drive her home. We know she took an Uber to Annie's house, but can you confirm whether it was Annie or her son-in-law Tommaso who took her home that night?
I think the timeline that the sheriff provided was a family member, but
just family. We're going to go with family.
Record TV, Vandry Piera.
We are Fort National, so we're not familiar with the area, so we think that it's a remote area. So my question is, why is it so hard to track a car or something suspicious that have passed through the area at that night? How difficult it is, just throwing cameras around or something?
Yeah, you're talking about the challenges we face in some of being in a rural area like this. Those are challenges we face all the time. We'd love it to have all the cameras in what we would consider a more urban nature type area. But once you get out into the community, that's not the only part of Tucson that is that way. And we just find ways to overcome those challenges. We don't just disregard it. We still look at ways to find for example, ring cameras that might catch just a piece of something goes by, it doesn't catch the whole car, those kinds of things. We don't give up, we still go out.
But not, at least a car that came out at night?
I
Far
can't.
away, like miles from the house.
We have cameras all over, and those things are being reviewed.
Arizona Republic, Richard Rojas.
I'm a different person, let's pretend.
Did you get two?
It's the second one.
Was that you?
Oh, sorry.
No.
All right. Thank you guys for keeping us honest. No, you already asked your question, so we're going to go to the New York Times with Reese. And I apologize for getting your name wrong here, Reese. Tebow?
No, you're close.
Tebow.
Hi, Sheriff.
Hi.
The 212, the camera that detected movement at 212, was that a different camera than the one that was disconnected at 147, and where was it pointed?
We don't know that. We don't know which camera that was. When we did the software, it just told us that this person was detected. But I'm unaware of which camera that was.
So there were multiple cameras, and you're not sure?
Sure. There were multiple cameras at the home.
Okay. And is there a possibility that this is not a ransom situation? And if so, what else could it be?
Your guess is as good as mine. I would say absolutely there's a possibility that this is nothing to do with a kidnapping. But we cover all angles. We're not going to dismiss something until we actually know for a fact that it's one way or the other.
People Magazine, we have Danielle Bucker.
So I wanted a little more clarity to follow up on his. Is there anything more you can say? Was this actually targeted or not? Do you have any?
That's why we have the FBI to look at those areas where there may have been a target. Maybe it is a kidnapping. But no, we don't have anything to rule that out or to say it is.
And as far as the ransom notes, there was a part in there about Bitcoin. Are you looking into that now, investigating?
Yes, that's part of the investigation.
Can you go and elaborate any further if you found anything or if there's any ties or any suspects tied to that Bitcoin?
There is not at this time.
Associated Press, the Joe Golden there.
Hi, Sheriff. Just to follow up to
You're Joe?
I'm sorry?
You're Joe?
Golden Dara.
Oh, I thought you said Joe. Okay.
Just to follow up to a prior question, you had said early in the investigation that authorities don't believe Nancy Guthrie was targeted. Why don't authorities think that Nancy Guthrie was targeted?
Who said that? Who said they didn't
You
think
had said
she?
that early in the investigation.
Boy, if I said I absolutely misspoke. I've never thought she was or wasn't targeted. We've always believed that is certainly a possibility. I mean, you'd be silly not to think that. Somebody disappears in the middle of the night out of their home. You can understand where I'm coming from. But no, if I said that, obviously I misspoke or maybe somebody misheard me. But I've never believed that she was or was not targeted.
Is there anything more specific you can say about what you believe the motive to be for this kidnapping at this time?
Motive's always going to be a question, and we'll know more as we go what that motive is. But right now, my guesswork is as good as yours.
And then we also have, the final one will be from maybe over here in Tucson, Monica Garcia.
Okay, so let's talk about that 5 p.m. You say 5 p.m. deadline today. Is that the deadline? Oh, maybe that's for the FBI. Can you just give us some sound on that? Because that's a big deal. That's within hours about that 5 p.m. deadline per the ransom note. And then what's supposed to happen after that?
So the ransom note that was distributed to the media did make a demand for 5 p.m. today. And if a transfer wasn't made, then I think a second demand was for next Monday. We're not going to go beyond that, but that was the ransom note the media received.
Did it indicate what would happen if they didn't meet that ransom? Did they?
We're not going to go into those specifics. Thank you.
5 p.m. Eastern, I'm sorry, I know it's Arizona. It's 5 p.m.
I don't.
It's 5 p.m.
And then, sorry about that, Inside Edition, Jim Murray.
Special Agent Yankee, given the fact that the FBI participated in the creation of this family video, does that suggest your belief that the author or authors of that ransom note, in fact, have Nancy Guthrie?
Again, we're taking the ransom note serious, and we are following that part of the investigation.
And does the fact that there is a ransom note suggest to you that Nancy Guthrie was taken specifically because she's Savannah's mom?
There's nothing to indicate that.
Thank you guys so much for all of your questions.
Thank
The
you.
sheriff does have just one more note about what happens next year, or what doesn't happen next year.
Well, it's what happens for us is we're going to continue working. For you, though, I hope this worked out well for you. But right now, I have no plans to schedule any further press conferences unless we have some real evidence or something to bring up to you. It's pretty pointless to just keep hounding the same things over and over. And as Special Agent in Charge, Yankee said, please give us some space, and that's not just physical space. Give us some space, give my team some time, because these things do take time, and they are difficult. And everybody out there is really working hard. And mistakes are going to be made, and if I made them, mea culpa. It won't be the first mistake I've ever made. But more important than me is we want Nancy back. That's the key. Okay? So thank you very much, and thank you for your concern in this.
Thank you. If you were looking for the other person that was up here, it was John Edwards, JONEDWARDS, Assistant Special Agent in Charge.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Yeah.
Liz, you can put that back in your jacket. Back in your pants.
I'm going to break it in.
You okay, Dick? Okay. Can I get you to pick up your foot for 2 seconds?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We are going to go meet with our experts right now. We have some amazing minds working on this with us, and please join us for our episode tonight. If you have not already, like and subscribe to Criminally Obsessed. Keep your notifications on because obviously this is still going on with the briefings, and stay with us here at Criminally Obsessed for the very latest on the Nancy Guthrie disappearance, possible abduction. We're going to have a lot more for you. I appreciate it. And we'll be bringing it to you very shortly, as soon as we possibly can. Our roundtable with the best investigators. See you there.